What was the biggest waste of money in human history? The Swedish ship Vasa. The Vasa was built in the 1620s to take advantage of the very newest in warship technology, a second row of guns. It was to be a symbol of Sweden's might, and thus was decorated with beautiful statues and carvings. This ship took 3 years to build and cost roughly 5% of Sweden's GDP. Unfortunately, the effect of a second row of cannons on seaworthiness was poorly understood. With great fanfare, the ship set off, experienced its first breeze, and still within full view of the city of Stockholm, capsized and sank. After the incident, a trial was started to place the responsibility. The trial was terminated prematurely when it became apparent that the Swedish king had personally pushed many of the design decisions that eventually lead to the ship capsizing and sinking. Actually, that particular king, Gustavus Adolphus, was probably the greatest military mind that a European monarchy ever produced. He essentially invented combined arms a few hundred years before the rest of the world would catch up, and was the first Protestant participant in the 30 Years' War to really bloody the noses of the Catholics. Gustavus had more egalitarian political leanings than most, and unlike so many monarchs, seemed to actually spare a thought for the rights of the peasantry. He insisted on a higher standard of discipline and professionalism in his army, meaning that his forces were the only ones to not routinely visit war crimes and atrocities on the mainland European peasants during that conflict. He also led from the front, which is ultimately what ended up getting him killed, before he could really shape the trajectory of history. Really interesting, dude, and it's a shame seeing all the Elon comparisons in this thread because the two couldn't be more dissimilar. If the pool of startup CEOs actually produced people of his quality, it would be hard to argue against techno-feudalism. LOL. Actually, that particular king, Gustavus Adolphus, was probably the greatest military mind that a European monarchy ever produced. He essentially invented combined arms a few hundred years before the rest of the world would catch up, and was the first Protestant participant in the 30 Years' War to really bloody the noses of the Catholics. He is a primary character in a science fiction book series, The Ring of Fire, which is about a circa 2000 West Virginia coal mining town that gets transplanted into the middle of the 30-Year War and needs to survive. It's a very, very fun series with lots of how do we bootstrap technology X with what's available, and a bunch of authors have written for it, and it's got dozens and dozens of books. The first book is 1,632 Inches by Eric Flint.